Hi everyone, my name is Suzanne and I'm a Chinese metaphysics master in Hong Kong. Unfortunately, my voice has still not quite recovered. I apologize for this, but I will try to make it through this eighth part of my 12-part series on the 12 growth phases in Bazi Astrology. So today we're talking about the eighth phase, and this is called the death phase. The 12 growth phases in general are a standalone reading technique in Bazi Astrology that can give you some hidden information about a person or a person's life that is not immediately obvious in a regular Bazi reading. And as the name implies, there are 12 growth phases that you could potentially see in a Bazi natal chart. Not all of them are seen at the same time because there can only be a maximum of 4 in a natal chart. So you will have one of the 12 in your chart. And today we are going to talk about the death phase. Now, a lot of people are very, very scared of this one because obviously the name itself is not so pleasant. But the death phase is actually not a negative phase per se. It's just a phase where you are ending something and beginning something new, or you have you are giving the opportunity to end something. Now, whether or not you do that is entirely up to you. And so obviously it would benefit you to know whether you have that opportunity, which is why we're looking out for this particular death phase in your natal chart. Now, how we do this is very, very simple and straightforward. The first thing you need to do is to go to this particular link. This is about the plotter, and this will show you, this will give you the natal Bazi chart. So what you need to do is plot your Bazi chart. If you don't know the time of birth, that's perfectly fine. You don't necessarily need this, but just plot whatever information you have, and then you will end up with the natal chart, which is highlighted here in pink. This is what we call the natal chart. So as you can see, there's a year pillar, a month pillar, a day pillar, and an hour pillar. Now, what most people don't know, or at least beginners to Chinese astrology, is that you're not only having a animal sign in the year, but you're also born in a month that is associated with an animal sign, a day, and an hour. So this particular person here is born in the ox year, in the tiger month, on a rooster day, and in the tiger hour. So you can have up to 4 different animal signs in your natal chart. Sometimes you have less, sometimes you just have 1. If it's the same for the year, month, day, and hour, which happens rarely, but it does happen. So you can have anywhere between 1 and 4 different animal signs. And these are the ones that determine the phases that are present in our natal chart. Now, what you also have here is what we call a luck pillar. So each person goes through 10-year luck pillars. Each 10 years, the energy changes. Now, this is not always the same for everyone. So your luck pillar time frame here may be different than what you see on this slide. It really depends on your overall natal chart and how it's being calculated. It's too complex to explain here, but just be aware that what it says here does not have to apply to you. So you may go through a completely different 10-year increment. And then we have the current year here, 2021. Now, this will be the same for everyone because we're all going through the same year, and this year is the year of the metal ox. All right, so once you have plotted this, whether or not you've got the hour pillar or not, then we determine whether or not you do have a death phase in your natal chart. So this is very easy to determine. The reference point is always the day stem. Yeah, so you look at the day pillar and the top character here, this is called the heavenly stem, the day stem. You check what you have here. Now, this particular person has Wu Earth. This is the yang polarity of Earth. And then we check this table over here. We check where we have Wu. It is here. And for Wu Earth, the death phase would reside in the rooster animal sign. Then you check whether you have the rooster anywhere in your natal chart or in your luck pillar. Now, for this person, there is no rooster. There's a dog in the luck pillar, a rabbit in the year, a pig in the month, a tiger in the day, and a monkey in the hour. So this particular person does not have a death phase in his or her natal chart. And that is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. As I said, there are 12 different phases. And because you only have 4 pillars, 5 with the luck pillar, you can have maximum 5 different growth phases. Now, let's have a look at another example and see whether they have the death phase. Now, here again, the reference point is the day stem. This one here is sin metal, the yin polarity of metal. Yeah, so you look at the stem in the day, and then you go to this particular table, you check where do we have sin. And for sin metal, for a sin metal day master, the snake will have the death phase associated with it. Now, again, you check whether there's any snake anywhere in the natal chart or the luck pillar, and there is none. All we have here is the monkey, the dog, the goat, and the ox. So this person, again, does not have a death phase in their natal chart. Now, let's see a third example and see what happens here. So in this particular case, again, the reference point is the day. So this one is a ding fire day master or day stem. It's the yin polarity of fire. And here we see for ding fire, the death phase is in the tiger. Now this person here has a tiger in the year pillar. So this means that in the year pillar, there is a death phase. So within the natal chart here, you actually do have a death phase. Now, what does this mean? So it depends very much on where this death phase appears. If it appears in the year pillar, as for this particular person here, then it indicates that you may have troubled relationships with your close relatives, and that you have to work extra hard on having harmony within your family relationships, yeah, within your relatives. If you don't do anything about it, then at some point you probably will have a big rift within your family. And this is obviously not what we want, which is why we want to see whether or not we have these phases in our chart. So it is okay if you cut out the relatives that are only bringing you trouble. But with the rest of the family, you really have to work very, very hard that you maintain a good relationship throughout your lifetime. Otherwise, you will find yourself at an old age completely devoid of close family and relationships. Now, if it appears in a month pillar, so if it were to be here, now this person doesn't have the death phase in the month, but if it were to be here, then this indicates a person who needs to take a lot of good care of their health during their middle age. So middle age in Bazi Astrology is defined as anywhere between, let's say, 30 and 48 years old. So you have to take extra care of your health. And very often, a person with the death phase in their month pillar also has troubled romantic relationships. So romantic relationships don't come easy to them. And they have to work very, very hard on making a marriage work or making a romantic relationship work. They also tend to work very hard on their career, which can contribute to the poor romantic relationship. Because if you're a workaholic, you don't spend enough time on your marriage, on your partnership. So you need to make sure that you find a good work-life balance, which then also contributes to better health. Now, the day pillar, if it appears here, so if you were to have the death phase in the day pillar, then what you need to do throughout your life is self-improvement and self-cultivation. Keep on learning, keep on exploring life, be curious about life, and step outside of your comfort zone every now and then. Yeah, don't don't get comfortable and kind of plateau at a certain point in your life and then think, oh, I know everything. This tends to be a bit of a risk for those people who have the death phase in the day. But what you need to do is constant learning. And this can be anything. This can be a hobby. This can be related to your career. This can be related to your personal life, whatever it is. Just keep on learning and keep on discovering things in life. Now, if you happen to have the death phase in the hour pillar, then you need to watch your temper, not just in old age, but throughout your life. You need to calm down. You need to learn to relax, and you need to learn to control your temper, because there's a tendency to have a temper that flares up really, really quickly. And then you tend to offend people without wanting to do so. It also indicates people who, if they have children, may not be very close to them. Now, this doesn't mean that you have strained relationships with your children necessarily. Nowadays, this can also mean that you are geographically far apart, living far apart. So maybe you're living in different countries, which is why you are not very close physically, right? You can still be close emotionally, but geographically you're living far apart, and therefore you need to work more on creating a close bond with your children. Now, if you happen to have the death phase either in your luck pillar or in the annual pillar, the current year pillar, then this means that during this particular time frame, whether that be a 10-year time frame as in the luck pillar, or just for 1 year, you need to be very, very careful of accidents. Now, those accidents do not necessarily lead to death, even though it's called a death phase. But you may have to go to the hospital and get something fixed. Yeah, maybe you break a leg or something if you are not being careful. Also, if you're going through a death phase, luck pillar, current year, you have a tendency to be very, very stubborn and don't listen to advice. So you need to be much, much more open to other people's input and other people's opinions, because if you are not, you are self-sabotaging during that time frame, because you're closing yourself off from any other opinion, any feedback, any constructive criticism, and that can get you in trouble. So be extra careful. Now, if it's just a current year, not so big of an issue. But if you're going through a 10-year phase like that, really, really learn to be much, much more tolerant and open to other people's opinions. Now, there's an additional layer of reading. And this only applies if you actually have the death phase anywhere in your natal chart. So if you have it in the year or in the month, in a day or in the hour, we're not talking about the luck pillar or the annual pillar. We only focus now on those people, those of you who have a death phase in your natal chart. And for those of you who do, check this, what we call day pillar. Check the element that you have here and the animal sign that you have here. Now, this person here has a fire rabbit. Yeah, ding rabbit, fire rabbit. So people with the death phase in the natal chart who have in the day a wood horse, a wood pig, a metal rat, or a metal snake, they may suffer from very, very weak health in their early life, yeah, during a younger age. So the health is a little bit iffy, and you have to be extra, extra careful. They do, on the other hand, have special technical skills. So they're very, very skillful. They're very technical. And if they work on being down to earth and using those technical skills, they can be very, very successful. They have a smooth career, especially in a career that pertains to anything technical, yeah, or engineering, or any sort of specialist type of skills. Now, as far as spousal relationships are concerned, romantic relationships, your marriage, people with those 4 types of day pillars, so that would be the wood horse, the wood pig, the metal rat, and the metal snake. They have to put a lot of effort into their romantic relationships, into their marriages. What happens here often with those 4 types of people is that on the outside, everything looks fine. On the surface, the relationship seems to be going smoothly, and even you may not be aware of certain hidden issues in the relationships. So it's very, very important that you continuously talk to your spouse and make sure that communication becomes a key factor, that you really communicate if something is bothering you, or that you communicate with your spouse and make sure that they communicate to you if that something is not working out. If you do that, you will be fine. But if you just ignore the signs, and if you just think, oh, everything looks fine on the surface, then at some point it's likely that your relationship will break apart, that you separate, and that you may even go through a divorce, right? But other than that, those 4 types of people are very hardworking. They are relatively cheerful. They do have a bit of an intense temper, flare up pretty quickly, but then again, they're very cheerful, fast, quickly after that. Technically skilled, and really the only 2 things that they need to look out for is their health at a younger age and their marital relationships. So this is the 8th phase of the growth phases, the death phase. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments or contact me directly. All my contact details are in the notes below. And if you do find this helpful, if you do find this informative and interesting, then please like, comment, and share with everyone who might find this interesting as well. So I will talk to you in the next video then.